The weight on my chest was warm, unfamiliar, and definitely not human. I tried to shift to lift my arms, but they were pinned beneath something. Someone who breathed in slow, measured rhythms against my collarbone. My eyes adjusted to the dim violet light filtering through crystalline walls, and that's when the full absurdity of my situation crashed into me like a freighter hitting Atmo. I woke up, unable to move. The alien queen had chosen my arms as her bed. Her silver-white hair spilled across my shoulder like liquid moonlight. The delicate ridges along her temples, marks of the Velthrani royal bloodline, caught the faint glow and shimmered. She looked almost peaceful, which was jarring considering that 12 hours ago she had been sentencing me to death. "You're awake," she murmured without opening her eyes. "Your heart rate changed, Your Majesty, shift." Her clawed finger pressed against my lips, gentle but firm. "The court doesn't wake for another 3 cycles. I would prefer silence until then." I lay there, paralyzed not by restraints but by sheer bewilderment, trying to piece together how Marcus Chen, disgraced diplomatic attaché, the human embarrassment as the Velthrani Council loved to call me, had ended up as the Queen's pillow. It had started, as most disasters do, with politics. 16 hours earlier, I stood in the grand crystalline hall surrounded by beings who considered humans barely above livestock. The Velthrani were beautiful in the way that poisonous flowers are beautiful, tall, luminescent, with eyes like fractured amethysts and voices that could make your bones resonate. Queen Sirvana Velthani, the 17th, sat upon her throne of living crystal, and she looked bored. Dangerously bored. "The human delegation offers these terms," Ambassador Reyes announced, his voice steady despite the contempt radiating from every noble in the chamber. "A trade agreement spanning 15 cycles, mutual defense pacts against the Krell hegemony, and we have heard enough." The Queen's voice cut through like a blade through silk. "The Velthrani do not make pacts with species who cannot even control their own genetic degradation." Laughter rippled through the court. I hit my eyes forward, jaw tight. "Your Majesty," Reyes continued, "humanity's medical limitations do not reflect. You sent us a delegation of 6. The Queen rose, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. 3 have already shown signs of the respiratory illness that plagues your kind. Do you expect us to believe you can honor a defense pact when you cannot defend your own selves?" More laughter. Crueler this time. The human attache. Her gaze found me, and I felt it like a physical weight. "Marcus Chen, you have been notably silent." Ambassador Reyes shot me a warning look. "Stay quiet. Don't make it worse." But I was tired. Tired of the sneers, the dismissals, the assumption that being mortal meant being worthless. "I have nothing to add, Your Majesty," I said. "You've clearly already decided we're beneath consideration." The silence that followed was absolute. "You dare," one of the nobles began. "I dare speak the truth," I continued, some suicidal impulse driving me forward. "Your Majesty asked for my contribution. Here it is. You're not rejecting this alliance because humans are weak. You're rejecting it because accepting help from lesser beings would wound your pride." "Marcus," Reyes hissed. Queen's expression didn't change, but her eyes, those fractured amethyst eyes, sharpened with something that wasn't quite anger. "Seize him," she said quietly. "The human will answer for his insolence." The holding cells beneath the palace were surprisingly comfortable. Crystal walls, a sleeping platform, even a small window showing the binary sunset. I supposed when you were waiting to be executed they could afford to give you a nice view. I sat with my back against the wall, thinking about my sister. Emily had died 3 years ago, the same respiratory weakness the Queen had mocked. She'd been 26. Brilliant. Kind. Gone too quickly, like all of us. Maybe that's why I'd snapped. Hearing them laugh at our mortality while Emily's grave was still fresh in my memory. The cell door dissolved without warning. Queen Sirvana stood in the corridor alone. No guards. No attendants. Just the ruler of a civilization that spanned 12 systems, standing outside my prison cell in what appeared to be sleeping robes. "Walk with me," she said. It wasn't a request. We moved through empty corridors, her bare feet silent on the crystal floor, my boots echoing loudly enough to make me wince. "You were wrong," she said eventually. "In the throne room." "Which part?" "All of it." She stopped at a balcony overlooking a garden of bioluminescent plants. "I didn't reject your alliance because of pride. I rejected it because every species that has allied with us has eventually been destroyed by that association." I blinked. "I don't understand. The Velthrani are dying, Marcus Chen." She said my name like she was tasting something unfamiliar. "Our birth rates have declined for 3 centuries. Our genetic diversity has narrowed to dangerous levels. Within 50 generations we will be extinct." "That's..." I struggled for words. Why would allying with humans accelerate that? It wouldn't. Her laugh was bitter, hollow. "But it would give you a front row seat to our collapse. And when we fall, our enemies will come for anyone who stood with us." She turned to face me, and in the blue-white light of the garden, I saw something I hadn't noticed in the throne room. Exhaustion. Profound, bone-deep exhaustion. I insulted your mortality because it was expected of me, she said quietly. Truth is, I envy it. You humans die, yes. But you live first, you feel things urgently. You love desperately. We? She looked away. We have forgotten how. Your Majesty Sirvana, when we are alone, just Sirvana. I didn't know what to say. This wasn't the cold, contemptuous queen from the throne room. This was someone drowning in responsibilities she'd never asked for, ruling a people who were slowly fading from existence. Your speech in the throne room, she continued. It was the first honest thing anyone has said to me in 40 cycles. I had you arrested because I couldn't afford to look weak by letting it stand. But I wanted to thank you for it. You're thanking me? I thought I was being executed. Faint smile crossed her features. The first I'd seen. The execution was theater. A way to make you disappear from court scrutiny. She paused. I have a proposition for you, Marcus Chen. I'm listening. Remain here. Not as a prisoner, but as an advisor. Someone who will tell me truths my court is too afraid to voice. You want a human to advise the Velthrani Queen? I want someone who isn't afraid to die telling me what I need to hear. Her eyes met mine. Will you stay? In that moment, looking at this ancient, weary queen who ruled an empire while her people slowly vanished, I made a decision that would change everything. Yes, I said. I'll stay. Mooring the first month was a careful dance of boundaries. I was given quarters near the Queen's wing, close enough to be summoned quickly, far enough to avoid immediate scandal. The court was told I had been exiled to a remote moon. Only a handful of trusted servants knew the truth. Sirvana called for me most evenings, always after the formal court sessions ended. We would walk through the palace gardens, or sit in her private study, and she would ask me questions. Strange questions. When humans argue with someone they love, how do they reconcile? What does it feel like to know you will die? Do your people truly touch each other casually, without meaning anything by it? I answered honestly, watching her process. Each response like it was a precious artifact from an alien world, which I supposed it was. Among the Velthrani, she explained one evening, physical contact is reserved for binding ceremonies or combat. Touch someone without formal purpose is considered intimate. So when your nobles bow and take your hand, it is a ritual. Prescribed. Meaningless. She was sitting across from me, her posture perfect as always, but something in her expression seemed wistful. I have been queen for 200 cycles. In that time, no one has touched me simply because they wished to. I thought of Emily, of the hugs we'd shared, of holding her hand in the hospital at the end, of how the simplest human gesture, a touch on the shoulder, a hand on the back, could communicate more than hours of words. That sounds lonely, I said. I did not know loneliness had a name until I met humans. She paused. Your species has so many words for emotional states that mind cannot articulate. Maybe that's why we burn so bright and fast. We have to name everything before we lose the chance. Her eyes found mine, held them. You are not what I expected, Marcus Chen. What did you expect? Something simpler, easier to categorize. A pause. You continue to surprise me. The first crisis came in the second month. The Council of High Blood demands an audience, Lord Velkari announced, his tone carrying the particular disdain the old nobility reserved for anything that inconvenienced them. They wished to discuss the matter of succession. We were in Sirvana's private chambers. I'd been summoned to review economic data from the outer colonies when Velkari burst in. His gaze swept over me with undisguised contempt. You keep the human close, he observed. There are whispers, Majesty. There are always whispers. Sirvana's voice could have frozen plasma. What the council discusses is their concern. My private consultations are mine. With respect, a queen who has refused every bonding proposal for 60 cycles, who now keeps a human in her chambers. Careful, Lord Velkari. The bloodlines must continue, Majesty. If you will not bond with the Velthrani Lord, the council may be forced to consider alternatives. Threat hung in the air like poison gas. After he left, Sirvana stood motionless for a long moment. Then, very quietly, they mean to depose me. Can they do that? If they declare me unfit. Yes. A queen who refuses to produce heirs, who allows the royal line to end? She closed her eyes. My mother faced the same pressure. She bonded with my father out of duty, not choice. He was cruel, Marcus. Cold. She withered in that bond until there was nothing left of who she had been. You're not your mother. No. You. I am worse. I am the last of my line, and I would rather see it end than chain myself to another Velkari. I moved without thinking, crossed the room, and took her hand. She went rigid. For a moment I thought I'd made a terrible mistake. This is not, she whispered. You should not. You said no one touches you without formal purpose. I didn't let go. Consider this my formal protest against that tradition. Her hand trembled in mine. Her fingers, long and cool, slowly curled around my palm. You impossible human, she breathed. We stood there as the twin moons rose outside her window, saying nothing, hands intertwined. It was the first time I saw her cry. Silent silver tears that she quickly wiped away, embarrassed by her own emotion. But she didn't let go of my hand. The touching became a ritual of its own after that. Small things, always in private. My hand on her shoulder when she was stressed. Her fingers brushing mine when she passed me documents. The careful, almost reverent way she would study our hands together, comparing the differences. Her luminescent skin against my darker warmth. Her elegant claws against my blunt nails. "Your cells are dying," she said once, tracing the lines on my palm. "Even now, as we sit here, I can sense them failing and regenerating. It's beautiful. Like watching stars be born and die in miniature. Most people just call them wrinkles." That surprised a laugh out of her, a real one, unguarded and bright. "I made you laugh," I said. "You did." She seemed almost surprised herself. I had forgotten the sound of my own joy. It was dangerous, what was growing between us. I knew it. She knew it. Neither of us had the wisdom to stop. The assassination attempt came on the night of the stellar convergence, the most sacred Velthrani holiday, when all three moons aligned and the crystal spires sang with harmonic resonance. I was waiting in our usual garden alcove when I heard the Queen scream. Not a scream of fear. A scream of rage. I ran. The scene in her chambers was chaos. Two assassins in servants' garb lay crumpled on the floor, their bodies twisted at wrong angles. Sirvana stood over them, her hands glowing with the deadly bioluminescence that Velthrani royalty could summon in moments of extreme emotion. But there was a third figure. Lord Velkari stood at the doorway, his expression a mask of false concern, a ceremonial blade in his hand. "Your Majesty, thank the stars you're safe. I heard the commotion and you sent them." Her voice was barely recognizable. Ancient, terrible, full of a queen's wrath. "You would murder me during the convergence. Accusations without proof will not save you from the council's judgment." He raised the blade. "But I'm sure they'll believe the human assassin you foolishly sheltered." I moved. The training from my academy days, before I'd shifted to diplomatic work, back when I thought I'd be a marine, took over. I hit Velkari low, driving him into the crystal wall before he could complete his swing. Blade sliced across my ribs as we fell. I didn't feel it, not really. Adrenaline was a hell of a drug. We grappled. His Velthrani strength overwhelming, his hands closing around my throat. "Disgusting creature," he hissed. "Did you think she would ever truly choose you?" "She didn't have to choose me," I managed through the pressure on my windpipe. "She just had to have someone willing to die for her." Light exploded through my vision. When I could see again, Velkari was a smoking ruin on the floor. Sirvana stood over me, her hands still crackling with lethal energy, her eyes wild. "Marcus, Marcus." She dropped to her knees beside me, her hands fluttering over my wound. "You're bleeding. Why are you bleeding so much, you fragile, impossible?" "I'm okay." I wasn't sure if that was true, but it seemed important to say. "Are you hurt?" "Am I?" Her voice cracked. "You placed yourself between me and a blade. You could have died. You would have died for someone who has given you nothing but—" "You gave me honesty," I interrupted. My vision was getting fuzzy at the edges. "You gave me purpose. And somewhere along the way you gave me something to believe in again." Her hands were pressing against my wound now, silver tears streaming down her face. "I can't lose you," she whispered. "I didn't know it was possible to feel this afraid of losing someone. Pretty sure that's love," I murmured. "At least, that's what we call it. Love." She said the word like it was sacred. "Is this love then? This terror? This desperate need to keep you alive? It's one part of it. What are the other parts?" I reached up, brushed a tear from her cheek. "Let me live, and I'll show you." The healer said I should have died. Human physiology wasn't designed to survive the kind of blood loss I'd experienced, and my cells didn't regenerate the way Velthrani tissue did. I survived anyway. Maybe out of stubbornness. Maybe because every time I started to slip away, I felt cool fingers wrapped around mine. Heard a voice that was ancient and young all at once, commanding me to stay. "You will not leave me, Marcus Jen." "I forbid it." "Can't argue with royalty," I mumbled and held on. The council tried to spin the assassination as proof that humans couldn't be trusted. Sirvana addressed them from her throne, her voice colder than the void between stars. "Lord Velkari attempted to murder your queen during the sacred convergence. The human you dismiss as lesser saved my life with his own blood. If you still believe our species inferior, then I invite you to explain why none of you, none of my own people, were there when I needed protection." The silence was deafening. "The human stays," she concluded. "This is not a request." I woke in the healing chambers to find her sitting beside my bed, still in her formal throne attire. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "How long?" I asked. 3 cycles. She didn't meet my eyes. "The healers weren't certain you would wake. I told you I'd show you the other parts of love." Now she looked at me, and there was something new in her expression. Something unguarded and vulnerable and fierce all at once. "I have been thinking about that word, researching it in your human databases. Find anything useful?" I found a definition that made me weep. She took a shaky breath. The condition of being profoundly invested in the existence of another. Is that accurate? Yeah, I said softly. That's pretty accurate. She leaned forward, her forehead resting against mine. I could feel her breath, cool and sweet, could see the fractured light in her eyes from inches away. I am profoundly invested in your existence, Marcus Jen. Inconveniently. Irrevocably. Terrifyingly invested. Same, I managed. When she kissed me, it was gentle. Tentative. The first kiss of someone who had never been taught how, learning with someone who had forgotten he still could. Stay with me, she whispered against my lips. Haven't I been? No. She pulled back enough to look at me. I mean stay. Not as an advisor. Not as a secret. As my chosen. My bonded. Let me give you a position even the council cannot challenge. You're asking me to marry you. I am asking you to rule beside me. To help me save my people, even as they curse your name. To face an uncertain future with an uncertain queen who has only recently learned she has a heart. I thought about Earth. About the sister I'd buried there, the life I'd left behind. About everything I'd be giving up. I thought about silver hair spilling across my shoulder. About cool fingers intertwined with mine. About a voice that commanded armies, breaking with fear at the thought of losing me. When's the ceremony? I asked. Her smile was like the birth of a new sun. The bonding ceremony of Queen Sirvana Velthani and Marcus Chen of Earth became the most controversial event in Velthrani history. The nobility raged. The traditionalists prophesied doom. Several lords attempted to invoke ancient laws to stop it. None of them succeeded. I stood in the grand crystalline hall, the same chamber where I'd been sentenced to death, wearing robes of deepest blue, the color of Velthrani constancy. Across from me, Sirvana blazed in white and gold, looking like a goddess made flesh. For the eternal stars, the high ritualist intoned, these two beings present themselves for binding. Let any who object speak now, or let peace hold their tongues forever. The silence was pointed. Several nobles looked like they were swallowing glass. The binding of bodies. The ritualist produced a ceremonial cord. Let their hands be joined. Sirvana's hand found mine, cool, familiar, trembling slightly. I squeezed gently, and felt her squeeze back. The binding of minds. Let them share their truths. I was afraid, Sirvana said, her voice carrying through the hall, afraid of loss. Afraid of hope. Afraid of feeling anything that could wound me. You taught me that fear is not the absence of courage, it is the price we pay for loving something enough to lose. My throat was tight. I came here thinking humans had nothing to offer. That we were too small, too brief, too broken to matter. You showed me that our brevity isn't a flaw, it's what makes every moment precious. You made me want to live again, not just survive. The binding of souls. The ritualist's voice was thick, even he seemed moved. Let them choose each other, now and always. I choose you, Sirvana said. I choose you, I echoed. The cord dissolved into light that wrapped around our joined hands and sank into our skin. I felt something shift inside me, a connection, warm and constant, like a second heartbeat. It is done, the ritualist announced. Long live the queen and her chosen. The hall erupted. Not in celebration, not yet, but in the shocked murmur of a world changing forever. Sirvana turned to face her people, and her voice rang out clear and strong. I know what you think of this union. I know your fears. The queen has bonded with an alien. The royal bloodline will be contaminated. She paused. But I have learned something these past months. Something vital. She looked at me, and her eyes were bright with tears and triumph. For 3 centuries we have been dying because we forgot how to feel. We became so concerned with purity, with tradition, with the careful preservation of what we were, that we lost the ability to become what we could be. Humans live brief lives, yes, but they live them fully. They love without reservation. They hope without guarantee. They reach for connection even knowing it will end in loss. Her hand tightened on mine. That is not weakness. That is courage. And it is courage that will save us, not isolation. Not pride. Not the cold perfection that has brought us to the edge of extinction. The murmur shifted. Not agreement, not yet, but something like consideration. I do not ask you to approve of my choice, Sirvana concluded. I ask only that you give us time to prove its worth. The future of the Velthrani will not be found in the past. It will be found in reaching beyond what we know toward what we might become. She stepped down from the ceremonial platform, drawing me with her. That was a good speech, I murmured. I had a good advisor. That night, in the Queen's chambers, our chambers now, I learned the full meaning of Velthrani bonding. It wasn't about physical intimacy, though there was tenderness in every touch. It was about vulnerability. About allowing another being full access to your fears, your hopes, your hidden self. We lay together in the soft glow of the bioluminescent garden outside our window, her head on my chest, my arms wrapped around her. I can feel your heartbeat, she murmured. Through the bond. It's so fast, so alive. I can feel yours. It's slower. Steadier, like the tide. Our peoples are like that, I think. You are the fire. Bright and brief and transformative. We are the ocean. Vast and deep and slow to change. She lifted her head to look at me. But fire and water together make steam. Power. Movement. That's almost poetic. I have been practicing. A pause. Marcus, yeah? I need to tell you something. I waited. The healers, when they were treating your wounds, they discovered something. A possibility. She took a breath. The bonding ceremony wasn't only symbolic. There is a biological component. A merging of certain genetic markers. It's why we rarely bond outside our species. The compatibility is almost never present. But, her voice was wonder and terror and hope. We are compatible. You and I. The healers don't understand how, but our genetic structures can combine. It took me a moment to understand what she was saying. You mean? I mean the council's fears about the bloodline ending may be premature. Her hand found mine, pressed it against her stomach. I mean that impossibilities seem to be our specialty, Marcus Chen. The universe contracted to that single point of contact. My hand. Her stomach. The impossible possibility of what might grow there. Are you happy? I asked, because I couldn't read her expression in the dim light. I don't know what I am. Her voice cracked. I have spent 200 cycles certain that I would be the last of my line. That I would watch my people fade into extinction with no hope of continuation. And now? She kissed me. Urgent, desperate, full of feeling. And now I have hope, she breathed. You impossible, stubborn, beautifully mortal human. You gave me hope. I held her close as the moons rose outside our window, feeling the bond pulse between us. 2 heartbeats. 2 souls. 2 species reaching across the void to find each other. I woke up unable to move, I said softly, because the alien queen had chosen my arms as her bed. She laughed, that bright, unguarded sound I'd come to treasure. I chose far more than your arms, Marcus Chen. What else, your heart? Your future. Your ridiculous human optimism. She nestled closer, and I intend to keep all of it for as long as the stars burn. Outside, the crystal spires began to sing with the approach of dawn. Somewhere in the palace, nobles were already scheming, already planning how to challenge this new order. Let them scheme. The universe had just witnessed something unprecedented. A human and a Velthrani bound together not by politics or necessity, but by the simple revolutionary act of choosing each other. The galaxy would never be the same. Neither would we. And as my alien queen settled into my arms, her breath evening out into sleep, I found myself smiling into the growing light. Mortality had always seemed like a curse, time slipping through my fingers, everything I loved destined to end. But lying there with the weight of her against my chest, the pulse of our bond thrumming like a shared secret, I understood something new. Brevity wasn't the tragedy. The tragedy would have been never feeling this at all. I closed my eyes, held her closer, and let myself believe in a future I'd never dared imagine. The end.
A la verga, ese güey porque tiene un reloj. ¿Qué me mandaste, güey?
¿Cuánto de presupuesto llevas para los 3 días?
500. $500, güey.
Siempre te pasas el presupuesto, pero igual pregunto.
No, o sea, ahorita no hemos comprado nada. O sea, bueno, compramos una figurita de Miku, pero nomás, güey. Una figurita de Miku y ya. Y por lo demás que hemos estado haciendo es las quests, güey. Y ya, güey, todo. Y la señal va bien perrona, me impresionó eso, que va bien perrona la señal, güey. ¿Cómo? ¿A poco sí?
En la otra cuenta estaba del culo. Como para estar en la conversación.
En la otra pinche convención estaba del culo. Sí, me sorprende que haya mejor la señal aquí que en la otra convención, güey, que era más chiquita. ¿No hay algo para postear en la convención? Sí, no creo.
Y mía.
Cámara.
Pones a bailarle de mi gatito miau miau. Y mi se...
¿Por qué está trabando esta madre? ¿Y tú sabes de qué hablas, güey? Patino y elfas. Son todas mías. Ay, güey. Ah, chinga, era ese forro. A la verga. No se cae. Está perro cosplay, De la nada dijo, voy a pasar por aquí. Pim, 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 pim.